Hare Krishna, good morning dear devotees from Sridham Mayapur. Today we have a very special program. We're in a very special place with some very special friends. We're here at the Nandi Sanctuary, my favorite place in Mayapur. And today I want to speak something about the cows and bulls, that's appropriate. But more than that, I'd like to speak something today about the animals of Braj. And not in a real extensive way, but in general way. So we'll just go ahead and say a few prayers to begin with. Goradraganya gana gota goloruharam Goranga gura tamagopyara kopa briksham Gopala gada ratidam yati singha gora Govinda deshi kavaram satatam namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachira Jachiya Dileka Kola Kahe Premananda Emona Gauranga Hridoya Dariya Bola Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangera Namare Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoya Mara Pranare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yasyaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema Bidana Padama Pumarta Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Srikuryat Kripaya Juri Tadaiva Sambhaya Pidva Rishayustad Priya Jana Sri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathabda Brajabala Bapahima Vanchakopatarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Vyahevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Good morning, dear devotees. It's nice to see our dear Sachi Tanoi Prabhu here from Los Angeles. We're at the Nandi Sanctuary this morning for devotees who just came in. And Brinda Sundari in nice, sunny, warm Denver, Colorado. We're here in freezing cold Mayapur, so we're all wrapped up. And Krishna Priya Madhupati Prabhu in Budapest. Nice to see everybody. So today, I'd like to read some things to you and discuss a little bit about the animals in Braj, and not just the cows, not so much on the deer or the forest animals, but more the point about village life and how village life is holistic. And as devotees, cows are okay. People are becoming affectionate with cows now. But when we speak about cow protection, it also implies other animals. Cows are not just in a vacuum but by themselves, but there's other animals involved too. Let's consider a little bit about this. In the 19th chapter of Prabhupada's Krishna book, he mentions how Krishna and Balaram were doing different pastimes, and he writes, he says, the cows, being unobserved, began to wander off on their own, entering further and further into the deepest part of the forest, allured by fresh grasses. And then he mentions the goats, cows, and buffalo traveled from one forest to another and entered the forest known as Ishikatavi. This is a story about the second forest fire. And the Bhagavatam, that chapter, that's chapter 19 of the 10th canto. It says there, Aja Gava Mahishas Cha Nirvisancho Vanadvanam Ishikatvim Navivishu Krandanjo Davatar Shitai. Again, the Sanskrit mentions, the first thing it mentions is aja. Aja is the goats. Aja gava, gava the cows, and mahishya, the buffalo. Krishna's taking care of different animals in Braj, not only the cows. And this becomes clear in the 24th chapter, the 10th canto, where it's mentioned even about the dogs. And Prabhupada writes in the 24th chapter of the Krishna book, he says, the cowherd men then inquired from Krishna how he wanted the yajna performed. And Krishna gave them different instructions. He told them you make so many different foodstuffs and you offer that, and then you should worship the Brahmins, you should decorate the cows and give money and charity to the Brahmins. And then he says, as far as the lower animals are concerned, such as the dogs and lower grades of people, I guess that means lower grades of people like myself are also lumped in with the lower animals. Lower animals such as the dogs and lower grades of people, such as the chandalas, the fifth class of men who are also considered untouchable, they may also be given sumptuous prasadam. And Prabhupada mentions here, he says, in this statement, Krishna practically described the whole economy of the Vaishya community. In all communities in human society, including the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras, Chandalas, etc., and in the animal kingdom, including the cows, dogs, goats, etc., everyone has his part to play. So village life is holistic. You can't just say we only have cows. I remember quite strongly when I visited one famous community, devotee farm community, and we were walking through nice houses and things the devotees had, and I was struck that there were no animals anywhere. And I told my wife at that time, this is a very unusual thing, because I grew up in the countryside, and country life means animals. It means there's dogs. And the Vaishnavas also keep dogs in the villages, and the dogs are very, very useful. They're the best guards. They warn you when people are coming. They're there to protect you. And sometimes the dogs are also trained to help take care of the cows and herd the cows and like that. There's also goats. Goats are, instead of buying a lawnmower or hiring somebody to mow your lawn, get some goats, or get some cows and let them eat the grass. It's a practical thing. And buffalo are also useful for certain things. Their milk products, which Prabhupada said are not digestible, but at the same time they have some utility, those milk products. They make very thick yogurt and very thick paneer and like that. So Prabhupada's saying that all the animals, everyone has his part to play. That's Vrindavan consciousness. It's not that in Vrindavan consciousness we allow certain people, but we don't allow other people. We allow certain creatures because we like the cows and the bulls, and especially why do we like the cows? Because they give us all this nice milk, and that's the only thing we think they're good for. That's also a big, big mistake. This morning, after we have our kata, we want to have a discussion, a conversation with our dear friend Doyle Mukunda Prabhu, who's sitting right over here. I'm going to flip the camera around so
keep going.
So you can see the smiling face of Doyle Mukunda Prabhu next to Nanta Guranga, and there's Sahadev Prabhu over there also. We had some discussion with him this morning about the difference between, a very interesting topic, everybody's into ahimsa milk. But there's a difference, he's pointing out, between ahimsa milk and bhakti milk. A very interesting thing. So we're going to speak with him something about that later on this morning. So Prabhupada goes on in Krishna book, he says, from this statement we learn also that although cats and dogs, which have now become so important, are not to be neglected. Cow protection is actually more important than protection of cows, cats and dogs. Another hint we get from this statement is that the chandalas, or the untouchables, are also not to be neglected by the higher classes and should be given necessary protection. Everyone is important, but some are directly responsible for the advancement of human society, and some are only indirectly responsible. However, when Krishna consciousness is there, then everyone's total benefit is taken care of. So we have a little bit, I think, sometimes of a misunderstanding in our society about the role of an institution, about the role of the temples and temple life. It used to be, when Sahadev Prabhu, when you joined, the temple life was everything. If you weren't living in the temple, you were in complete Maya. And basically there was no devotees living in their homes or anything. But most people don't want to live in a temple. And we see Srila Prabhupada's vision was to create Vrindavan villages. We need to create communities. And those communities will be, in many, many ways, very similar to the temples, but they'll also be very different in some ways. A temple is something by nature which is open for everyone. Traditionally in Braj, you'll find that in the temples there were no deities of any of the acharyas. Now that's changed. You go to Radha Damodar temple today and they have deities of the 6 Goswamis, but originally they weren't there. Why? Because Krishna is Samasti Guru. He's a guru for everyone. So everybody can feel happy and comfortable with Krishna, whether you're from the Sri Sampradaya, the Vallabha Sampradaya, the Madhva Sampradaya, you're a Gaudiya, whatever, you're happy there. But your particular guru is Samasti Guru. He's like a kiran or a ray of light coming from the sun. That's a particular person for particular people. So the temples are meant for everyone. And necessarily there's an open door policy. As long as someone's not a troublemaker, we shouldn't care what background they come from, what nationality, what race, what gender they are from, what affiliation they may have with a particular Vaishnava group. The temples are open for anyone who doesn't cause trouble. That's ISKCON. But a community, by definition, has to have some rigid standards. Living in a community is like being married to 40 people at the same time. And you don't just get married to anybody. So there has to be some rules. But in an ironic kind of way, communities are also more broad-minded than the temples. Although the community is something which only certain people you want to join, but by the nature of the community, you can also have people living there who may not be able to live in the temple. Maybe you have a devotee who has some problem with substance abuse. They like to take drugs here, but the person is a really good carpenter or really good at working on cars, and he's a devotee. He loves Krishna, and he loves the devotees, and he's not a troublemaker. So he can come and stay in a community. In fact, Srila Prabhupada, in one conversation here in Mayapur, he said that when we establish Varnashram communities, we'll also have some people living there who eat meat, and they can come and stay in our community. Oh, that means somebody who loves the devotees, who loves Krishna, but they have this problem. They really can't give up eating that most disgusting, terrible thing, which is very sinful and is a very terrible offense. But still, they can engage in some service, and they can be part of a community. Whereas in a temple, it doesn't work like that. The function of the temples is for preaching. The function of the temples is for teaching people. The function of the temples is to have big festivals and to spread Krishna consciousness, and we want to support that in whatever way we can. But for living, we have communities. And those communities, in the temple, you're not going to have dogs and cats, although here in Mayapur, at the temple, there's so many dogs going around, but they're not allowed inside the temple. But in a rural community, you'll have definitely different types of animals. That's holistic. And honestly speaking, if you have a community and you don't have different types of animals, it's a little strange. Your community, there's something wrong with your community then. You don't have a holistic approach to community. So community is meant to be holistic, and this is the advantage of Vedic communities. Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Vaishnav Toshini, he comments on this verse we were just speaking from on the 19th chapter about the second forest fire, and he says there that Krishna and Balaram were protecting different animals, not only the cows, but other animals as well. Sanatana Goswami is speaking about this, and Rupa Goswami in his Radha Krishna Ganadesh Deepika, he speaks about how so many different animals are there of Radha and Krishna. He says, Mangala, Pingala, Ganga, Pisangi, Manikashani. These are different cows that Krishna has. And then he mentions Padmaganda. Such a nice name, Padmaganda. It's a name of Krishna's bull, his pet bull, who is so very dear to Krishna. And this particular bull, he smells like a lotus. Sometimes we visit our friends in Patamandai, and they have many bulls and cows there. And they have one bull, I'm dead serious, I don't know if it's bona fide, but he smells like chocolate. There's a controversy if chocolate's bona fide or not.
Smells like jaggery.
We have one, what were you saying? We have one bull here who smells like jaggery. Jaggery is definitely bona fide. I don't know if chocolate's bona fide or not, but he smells like chocolate. It's such a nice fragrance. So Rupa Goswami says, Padmaganda, Pisangaksho. These are the two bulls that are very dear to Krishna. But then Krishna also has a deer. His name is Saranga. And Krishna has a monkey, Dadi Loba. Dadi Loba means someone who's loba, very greedy for dahi, for yogurt. He likes yogurt very, very much. And not only that, very controversially, I don't know, you may decide after this that you don't want Krishna to come to your temple anymore. I don't know, it's such a controversial thing. But Rupa Goswami says, Vyagra Brahmakaro Swano, that he has two pet dogs. One is named Vyagra. Vyagra means very, very terrible. Maybe that's just trying to encourage him. I can't imagine that he's so terrible. And Brahmaraka, Krishna has a swan. Krishna has, in his swan is named Kalasvana. He has a peacock named Tandavika, and he has two male parrots named Daksha and Vichakshana. Similarly, Radharani has her particular favorite cows, Rupa Goswami speaks about. And she has Tungi. Tungi is her little pet calf. And Radharani is very, very affectionate to that calf. But Radharani also has Kakati. Kakati has a very important role to play in Braj Leela. Kakati is this old lady monkey. And sometimes when Radha and Krishna, they're engaged in pastimes in the Kunj, they're taking rest very late. Practically, they don't sleep all night. And they wake up in the morning before Mangalartik time, and they don't want to leave. Their loving affairs are so sweet, they don't want to leave each other. And so then at that time, Brinda Devi, she sends Kakati. And Kakati comes running in, and she says that Jatila's coming, Jatila's coming. Kakati also speaks, and Jatila's not actually coming. Jatila's Radharani's so-called mother-in-law. But when they hear that, oh, we got to go now. So Kakati has this important role to play. This is village life. All the different animals have some role, including the monkeys, including the deer. Radharani has a deer named Rangani. She has a chakori bird named Charu Chandrika. We have a friend in Hungary named Charu Chandrika, named after Radharani's chakori bird. So this is Braj life. And Krishna loves all the Brijbasis. It's not just that we love the cows because they give us milk, because I like to eat milk so much. But as we were speaking yesterday, milk is consciousness. Milk means love. And if you take away, when a mother sees her baby, the milk immediately starts coming to her breasts. And if you take away that baby, if somehow, Hare Krishna, that baby dies, or the baby is taken away from the mother, then the mother feels so much anxiety. And because that milk is consciousness, that anxiety goes into the milk, and that anxiety creates toxins in the milk. And I'm not going to recommend devotees being vegan or non-vegan. That's too controversial. Personally, I don't like to tell people the way they should dress or the way they should eat. We highly recommend you don't eat meat, fish, or eggs. Highly recommend that for good Shastric reasons. But if you want to take milk or not take milk, there's a debate about it. And I can respect both sides of that. To respect the devotees who are more on the vegan side, that milk, which is taken from cows from that or being raised in a commercial way, it's full of toxins. It's full of all kinds of anxiety. In the 13th chapter, the 10th canto, The 13th chapter is Brahma Mohana Leela, when Lord Brahma becomes bewildered. He steals away the cows and the cowherd boys for just one moment, and then he becomes a little concerned and comes back to see what's going on. And we know that Krishna expanded himself at that time as all those cows and calves. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Saartha Darshani, he comments on the 22nd verse of that chapter, and the words Sudasavam, which means that it was like nectar to Krishna. And Vishwanath says that this means that breast milk, because Krishna had expanded himself as the young boys, and also as the young calves. And so all the cows got the opportunity to be the mother of Krishna. And all the ladies of Braj got the opportunity to be the mother of Krishna for one full year in this world. And it said in the verse that their milk was like Sudha. And Vishwanath says this is because it was just like nectar, because it was saturated with prema. And therefore this word Sudasavam, Asavam means it was intoxicating, like madhu, like wine. Krishna became intoxicated on that. So we want to offer milk to Krishna, and Krishna becomes intoxicated with that milk if that milk is given with love. But if that milk is stolen away from someone, if that milk is taken from the mother who has so much anxiety, is so very, very disturbed, what's happening with my baby, why I can't see my baby, and they're putting these machines on my teats, on my breasts, and taking this milk away in a forcible way, it's not the same for Krishna. And therefore some devotees, they don't want to propitiate that. Raghunath Das Goswami has given a very wonderful book called Braj Bilas Stava. And in his Braj Bilas Stava, he offers prayers to all the residents of Vrindavan. And he also offers prayers to the cows. And in text 44 and 45, he says, Indranila Kura Rajita Param Swana Bharavara Shringa Ranjitaha Pandu Ganda Giriva Garva Karvikaha Pantuna Sapadi Krishna Denava. He offers prayers to Krishna's cows. He says these cows, they have very beautiful blue hooves that shimmer like sapphires. And the horns of those cows are painted gold. They're painted with gold, actually, in Braj. And their complexions and shape, they destroy the pride of small white mountains. May those cows protect us. Very interesting thing. We think that, I have to do cow protection. We have to protect the cows. But Raghunath Das Goswami is saying, no, you have a misunderstanding. Externally, it appears like that. But he's saying here, Pantuna Sapari Krishna Denava. Rather, those cows will protect us. And how will they protect us? They'll protect our bhakti. Because if we take care of those cows, and in Braj communities, everyone has something to do with the cows because it's holistic living. It's not like someone living in America. One devotee I heard came who's living in New York, who's born and raised in New York City. And he came to India for the first time. It was the first time he'd ever left New York City. And he came to India, and he was going around about Braj with one senior devotee. And wherever he went, he says, look, it's a tree. Oh my God, it's a tree. I've heard about trees before. And there's grass. I haven't seen grass before. So he's a nice devotee. He's living in the city, and he's performing his duties, taking care of his family, working a job, whatever. But in the city, it's artificial life. You're not in touch with the trees and things. When you go to the villages, everyone becomes grounded, literally. In the city, you're not grounded. You're never walking on the ground unless you go to Central Park or something. And even you go to Central Park, it's very, very artificial in so many ways. But generally in the city, you're just walking on concrete, you're walking on cement, you're walking on steel, you're walking on something artificial, and you're away from what's natural. But village life is holistic. You go to the villages of Braj, you go to the villages anywhere in India today, and you see the people, they're so much more balanced. There's practically no mental illness in the villages. A little bit, but very, very little. You have some people like Jatila and Kutila, they have some mental illness. But their mental illness is a little sweet. And still, it's also holistic. They have some way to fit in. Whereas in the cities, when someone has some mental illness, they just stick them in some kind of home somewhere and pump them full of drugs, or they used to do lobotomies on them and do all kinds of terrible things because they have no place. But crazy people have a place in the villages of Braj, and you have people like Makara. Makara's Radharani's grandmother, and she's a little funny sometimes. You have people like Jatila and Kutila who are imagining all kinds of things, and they're a little crazy. But they have a place in Braj. And people in the small villages, you see, they're touching the ground. They're in touch with the ground. They're in touch with the plants and the trees, and they know when to plant the seeds. They know when to harvest things. They're doing that with their hands, and they're doing it with each other. It's holistic. Holistic doesn't just mean only certain people are doing that, but when it comes time when big activities are needed to plant seeds, to harvest things, then the whole village comes and takes part. It doesn't mean that everybody in the village has exactly the same occupation. Some people may be making pots, some people today may be taking care of cars or doing this or that, but the village is holistic, that everybody works together. And even I saw when I was growing up in the rural Illinois in America, when some young people would get married, some people would come together and they would build a house for them. Or if somebody needed to build a barn, the whole community would come together and help them. They have a phrase for it, barn raising. And they would help them to build that barn. That's holistic. Village life is a very, very holistic thing. And because of that, people are in touch with the land, they're in touch with the plants, they're in touch with the animals, they're in touch with the seasons, they're in touch with themselves, they're in touch with other people. Whereas living in the city, we're just sitting in front of a computer constantly, and everything is strange, and everybody's going completely crazy, and you're listening to what's being told you on Facebook and WhatsApp and this and that, and you don't know if it's true, if it's not true, and you're constantly full of anxiety. So it's very, very good to come and take care of the cows something. And in communities, everyone had something to do with the cows. I spoke with elderly people, and I remember speaking to an elderly man in Bhubaneswar. He was just telling me about 50 years before, it was a common thing in all the cities in India, much less the villages, but the cities, people would keep two pots in front of their house, or at least every street had these two pots. And one of them, the people would go and they'd put their vegetable scraps in, and another one they would put clean water in to feed the cows. Because there's certain cows who are just wandering about, and everybody would love the cows and take care of the cows. And so this is holistic living. When you live like this and you're in touch with the cows, maybe not in a big way like Dora Mukunda Prabhu, you don't know how to take care of the cows when they're sick. We don't know exactly how to feed them or bed them or something, but at least we can go and give them some nice grass, give them some vegetable scraps or something, instead of just throwing it away and wasting it. Or even those vegetable scraps you put in the ground and they become compost, and then you can grow something nice with it. That's the difference between village life and city life. So the bowls are very, very important. And Raghunath Das Goswami, he speaks in Brajvilas Stava, he offers prayers to the cows, but he also offers prayers to the bulls. And he says, Mani kachita suvanashlista shringa dvaya shir asita mani manogya jota ujjat karadya swarada runima guchandalo vijoti kanta Sajayati baka shota padmaganda kakudmi mriduna vatrinam opam saspriham vakta madye kshipati pradama yatnat apakundum jagatre Pratayati Muravari Hantavad Yak Vatsakanam Sapadi Kila Didrikshitatad Atikanani. He offers prayers. He says, all glories to Krishna's pet bull, Padmaganda, whose horns are very beautiful because they're studded with gold. His hooves are charming because they have this sweet bluish sapphire luster. And around their neck, he has a red necklace which swings. He says, I want to see those calves of Krishna jumping around. If you've ever seen, you can Google this on YouTube too. If you see the cows when they come out of the barn after the winter, it's a wonderful thing. Your heart just is full of joy. Dhamakundaba has a big smile and says, they're just jumping and leaping, and especially the calves. And the calves do that so very often. But why is Raghunath Das Goswami particularly mentioning this? Who is Raghunath Das Goswami in Braj Leela? He's Tulsi Manjari. So why is Tulsi Manjari so attached to thinking about the calves jumping around like this? One commentary we've read on these verses describes, because there's a confidential meaning here, because as Tulsi Manjari, as a messenger for Srimati Radharani, she's sometimes going to try to find Krishna in the forest. And how do you find Krishna? When you see the calves jumping up and down, who are so ecstatic because they're with Krishna. Oh, Krishna's nearby. So this is why Raghunath Das Goswami, this is the hidden meaning of this thing. That the cows, this is holistic life. The cows are also involved in all aspects of Braj Leela. With the gopis, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes in one place that Krishna, he's going every day to milk the cows. And one morning as he's going out, he happens to see the very beautiful daughter of Maharaj Brishabhanu. And when Krishna sees her, he's looking at her, he's not really paying attention to where he goes. And then Krishna's going to milk the cows, and he's looking at Radharani, and he goes to sit down in front of the cow, and he starts milking the cow. But it was actually a bull. Like Krishna's milking, because he's looking at Srimati Radharani. Such a very, very sweet pastime. The cows are involved in so many different ways. And there's so many different songs. We were going to sing some in Padakalpataru about Krishna taking care of the cows and going out to herd the cows. A question comes. I'm sitting in front of a temple right now. It's not finished being constructed yet. Maybe I'll flip the camera around so you can see the temple. The devotees are here. And this is an important temple. This is a temple of Lord Shiva. There's a very beautiful dome on top, Shikara. And you'll see there's some bricks just in front of the temple there. And that's for Nandi. Nandi the bull, because this is a Nandi sanctuary. And Nandi is very important. Lord Shiva is described as Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. He's the greatest Vaishnava, he's the greatest devotee. And the gopis are worshipping Gopishwar Mahadev. According to Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, after Krishna left Braj, in separation from Krishna, the gopis were going every day and they were crying to Gopishwar. Because previously they were praying to Gopishwar, do you please give us association with Krishna? Now Krishna's left Braj, so the gopis are going and crying, and they were feeling so much intense separation that their fingers melted into that Shiv Linga. And if you go there today, highly recommended, when you go to Braj, our acharyas have said that the first deity that you should go to see in Braj is Gopishwar Mahadev, because he grants entrance to the Dham. Thakur Bhaktivinoda has written one verse where he describes Lord Shiva is Ketrapala. Oh hey Ketrapala Shiva, Tumi Doyamoy. That you're Doyamoy, you're very, very merciful. So he prays to him, Krishna Bhakti More, Hai Yasudva, you please give me Krishna Bhakti. And so the Vaishnavas, they worship Lord Shiva in this way. The gopis are worshipping Lord Shiva in this way. So who then is Nandi? In the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, there's a nice story which we printed in our first magazine, a second magazine about Lord Shiva. And there's a conversation there in that book, which describes how Srimati Radharani emerged from the left side of Krishna, and then from Krishna's left side also came millions of gopis and cowherd boys, and then different cows and bulls. And the Sarabi cows came, the Kamadhenu cows came. They all came originally from Krishna's body. And then Krishna gave away one beautiful bull to Lord Shiva. That bull came from Krishna's body. And he gave that bull to Lord Shiva to become his carrier, Nandi. But then there's another description also about the origin of Nandi. Two descriptions are given. That's not uncommon in our Puranas. Jiva Goswami and Sanatana Goswami have commented in different places that sometimes in different Dibya Yugas, the same pastime happens in a little different way. To give you a good example, in the Mahabharata, it begins by speaking about Maharaj Parikshit and how he was cursed by Shringi. But the description in Mahabharata is completely different from the description in the Bhagavatam. And the Mahabharata says that Maharaj Parikshit built a tower to keep away from the curse, to keep away from that snake bird. But the Bhagavatam says something different. So rather than becoming confused and saying one is right and the other is wrong, and we're not going to accept this book, and doing some Shruti Shastra Ninda, or the offense of criticizing Shastra, our acharyas have described, and it's starting to warm up a little bit here, our acharyas have described that different Dibya Yugas, the same pastime happens in little different ways. And one example Sanatana Goswami gives is that in some Treta Yugas, Ravan kidnaps Sita. But in some Treta Yugas, Ravan doesn't kidnap Sita. She's not taken away. So it happens in little different ways at different times. So in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, there's two descriptions given about the origin of Nandi. And this first description is given that Srimati Radharani appeared from the left side of Krishna along with so many cowherd boys and cows and bulls, and one of those bulls was given by Krishna to Lord Shiva and became Nandi. And but later on, in the Krishna Janma Kanda, chapter 36 of the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, there's a description about how Lord Shiva went to fight against the demon Tripurasura. And Lord Shiva at that time, the Brahma Vaivarta Purana says that he was a little proud. He was considering himself that I'm a very, very powerful person because I'm the guy who destroys all the three worlds. And so this demon, who is he? He's just like nothing. And so Lord Shiva went to fight with him, but to his surprise he found it wasn't such an easy fight. Tripurasura was very, very powerful. And they fought for day and night for one continuous year. And still Lord Shiva couldn't defeat him. And that demon suddenly flew up in the sky, and Lord Shiva also went up, and they were fighting. And then that demon broke Lord Shiva's bow and broke his chariot and destroyed all of Shiva's weapons. And at that time, all the demigods, they started getting really nervous that this doesn't look very good. We're going to be in big, big trouble. And then Lord Shiva, he came to his senses, and he began to offer prayers to Krishna. And calling out Krishna's name, then Krishna appeared before him. Krishna manifested a very wonderful form as a very effulgent bull known as Nandi. And he picked Lord Shiva up and put him on his back. And then Krishna gave Lord Shiva some armor, and he gave him the Trishula, which Lord Shiva carries. And you see in the temples of Krishna, there's a chakra over them. In the temples of Durga or Lord Shiva, there's a Trishula over there. So that Trishula was given by Krishna to Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva took that riding on the back of Krishna. Krishna took the form of Nandi, because Krishna loves his devotees so much. So then he defeated that demon, And this story was told personally by Krishna to Srimati Radharani. And then Krishna concluded the story with the following verse. He told Srimati Radharani, Tatoham Brisha Rupena. Since that time, Brisha Rupena, I've taken the form of that Brisha, that bull. Tatoham Brisha Rupena, Vahamitena Tam Priyam, Mama Priyatamo Nasti Trilokyeshu Sivat Para. And since that time, I carry Lord Shiva on my back as his vehicle, because there's no one in all the three worlds who's as dear to me as Lord Shiva. So I think we may worship Nandi then in the form of Krishna. But Nandi's down lower, we see here, than Lord Shiva, and that's very pleasing to him. He wants to become the carrier of Krishna. So Krishna loves the bulls so much, and the bulls, they love Krishna. Some years ago, we made a magazine on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we wrote an article which is based on an article we found in the local newspaper. And that was very extraordinary for us. It was the first and only time we've ever written an article in our Krishna Katamrita magazine based on a newspaper article. But it's a very, very interesting article. That article in Oriya, the title was Sunda Sunuchi Bhagavan. It's kind of a sarcastic or humorous statement in Oriya language. Sunda means a bull, and Sunichi means to hear, Bhagavat. So the bull hearing the Bhagavat. Just like if you go, you try to speak the Bhagavatam to a bull, they're not always so receptive. They're not very interested in that. But if you bring them some nice ladus or something, then they become very, very happy. But that saying, that Oriya saying, the newspaper said, took on a new meaning. In March of 2004, there was a Bhagavat Saptaha going on at the Kapileshwar Mahadev temple in Bhubaneswar. It's a very ancient temple in Bhubaneswar. We visited there many times. And that tradition had been going on for 22 years. And just as they were getting ready to speak the Bhagavatam, a big bull came through the gate into the temple compound and sat down. And it's not an uncommon thing in India, even in the cities, to have a bull come. And the people, they take a stick or something, they drive the bull away. So they picked up a stick to drive the bull away, but this bull wouldn't go. He was being, as we say in American English, he's being very bullish. It means he was being very stubborn. And they couldn't move him. And they tried to push him, and the bull just wouldn't move. So they just left him alone. And then the Bhagavat Katha started. And the bull just sat there. And when the katha finished, everybody got up to leave. The bull also got up and left. And everybody forgot all about it. The next day, just before the Bhagavatam was beginning to start, the same bull showed up. And the same thing happened. They couldn't drive him away. He sat down, listened to the whole Bhagavat Katha. When the katha finished, the bull got up and left. And this went on for 9 days. They had a 9-day saptaha. And that bull was coming every day. And then after the katha finished, the bull stopped coming. The next year, they had the katha, the same katha, and the same bull came in the very beginning, just right on time, came in, sat down, and as soon as the katha finished, the bull would get up and leave, again for 9 days. That happened 2 years in a row. So the third year, everybody was talking about it, and they went to the newspaper, and a newspaper reporter came, and sure enough, the very first day of the katha, the same bull showed up right on time and came in and sat down, and every day would hear the katha and then would get up and go. So this is holistic life. Villages mean holistic life. That the katha is for all the animals. And here at the Nandi Sanctuary, Doyal Mukunda Prabhu has built this nice mandap, which we've already used for a few festivals, for Govardhan Puja and Go Puja has gone on here. And he wants to have regular katha, regular kirtan for the bulls. You can also Google this on YouTube. There's so many different beautiful videos you can find of the bulls. They like music. Krishna Kund and I have experienced this too. the cows and bulls, they like music. Sometimes we go places. I know in Lithuania, the bulls, the cows were up on a hill, long distance way, and we went there and we're standing down below and we started singing. I'm not such a good singer, but Krishna Kun sings very sweet, and we were singing together. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. And the cows, after a couple minutes, you could see their ears perked up. And then little by little, they started coming down. And then the next thing you know, all the cows, so his ears are picking up as soon as we started singing. Huh? So this is holistic life. You can also come here and do kirtan. It's said in Hari Bhakti Vilas that if you chant japa at the Goshala, then that japa becomes very, very powerful. It becomes much, much more powerful. So similarly, you can come and do kirtan, and you sing some nice, sweet kirtan. The bowls, they become very, very happy. And so you're serving them in that way. And they're also helping us. They're protecting us. So all the animals have some place in Braj. Prabhupada said sometimes some discouraging things about dogs and cats because they really don't have a place in the temple. In the Valmiki Ramayana, Uttarakanda, in chapter 108, there's a story we printed called the, what do we call it, Curse of the Dog. And it's a long story, but there's a dog whose head was broken open by some Brahmin, and Lakshman had gone out from the assembly of Lord Ram. Lord Ram told him, you go out and see if anybody has any complaints. And so Lakshman went out and said, nobody's complaining, everything's good. It's Ram Raja. So he made that report to Ram. And Ram told him, go back again, check again. And so he went out a second time, and this time he found there was this dog. He called out, does anybody have any complaints? His dog came forward, yes, I have a complaint. This Brahmin was abusing me. So then Lakshman told him, so come in the temple, come in the court of Lord Ramachandra, come in the palace. The dog said, no. Shastra says dogs are not allowed inside of the temple, inside of the palace. I can't go there, but I'll give this message. And then Lord Ram told him, no, you bring the dog in. So Shastra says dogs have no place inside the temple. As a general rule. There may be sometimes some exceptions. And Prabhupada followed it. But Prabhupada was also very affectionate to the dogs. We hear that what's his name, Malati's Shyamasundar Prabhu. Malati and Shyamasundar had a dog. And Prabhupada was very, very affectionate to the dog. The dog used to go and lay down at Prabhupada's feet, and Prabhupada would pet him and things. But Mukunda Prabhu had a cat. And Prabhupada, one day he was playing with that cat, that kitten, and was rubbing its tummy and things. And Prabhupada told him, see, even in the material world, there's some love between the animals. That's village life. But in the temple, there's no place for that. But in our communities, there is a place for that. And those animals, they have some utility. Instead of making traps and doing this and that, keep a cat. Huh? Oh my gosh. So we may go offline pretty soon because it says low battery. I don't know. I charged it fully. Anyway. Hare Krishna.
Give you power?
What's that?
Bring the power?
Do you have, but we can't because we have to lose the mic.
If you have a cable for the
Do you have an Apple cable?
I have a lightning connection.
Yes. You have that. But then we need a plug and everything too. So anyway, there's a nice story that I wanted to share with you before we finish. And this is from the Chaitanya Mangal when we talk about dogs. And it's something that I really appreciate about the Nandi Sanctuary, that here they're taking care of not just the cows and bulls. Well, first of all, they're taking care of the bulls, which are not always the most popular animals. The most popular is the cow because they give milk. But here especially, they wanted to take care of the bulls because the bulls are not so appreciated. And they give them so much love and affection. And you can come here and you can brush the bulls and do some service. But they also now have a horse, and there's also a number of dogs. And sometimes devotees, they kind of scratch their head and they say, dogs, I don't know about that. But Prabhupada was also sometimes affectionate to the dogs. The dogs have no place in the temple, but village life is holistic. Braj village life means all the animals, as Srila Prabhupada said, have some role to play. Right? The only person who doesn't have a role to play in Braj village is Indra. And we kick him out. But the dogs we feed. And Jiva Goswami says that Krishna told the Brijbasis that when you do Govardhan Puja, you offer a big feast, and then you should feed everyone, the Brahmins, and you feed all the animals and the cows, and you even feed the dogs. But don't give anything to Indra. He's not welcome. And Indra's the only person who's not welcome. So in Chaitanya Mangal, Lochandas Thakur, he's described a very wonderful pastime of how one day Nimai and his friends, they found a group of puppies, small puppies, and they started playing with them because everybody likes puppies. I mean, there's some devotees I know who say, I don't like puppies, but I don't think they're really being honest. Because how can someone not like puppies? Puppies are just so cute and so wonderful. Huh? Maybe we're just too much smart to Brahmins or whatever. But if we're really honest, everybody likes it. Even Prabhupada also liked it. And even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nimai Pandit was playing with those puppies. Huh? And Nimai, he chose one of those puppies to be his particular puppy. And the other boys, they started complaining, no, it's not right. You took the most beautiful puppy. We're not going to play with you anymore. We also want to have that puppy. And so then Nimai, he said, that the puppy belongs to all of us. So you come to my house and we'll all play with him. And so then he went home and he put a little string around that puppy's neck. And he was keeping that puppy. And meanwhile, some of the boys, they went and they complained to Mother Sachi. They said, do you know, your boy, he's keeping... Okay, we're going to use the inner microphone.
Yeah, if we want to keep
Yeah, we're going to have to do this. So we're going to switch in just a minute to the inner microphone. And the sound's going to go down, the sound volume. I'll try to bring this thing closer. So it works better. Everybody. Hare Krishna, I hope devotees can still hear us. Yeah, I hope that'll work. If Madhupati Prabhu is somebody who's watching, if you can let us know if you can still hear, I'd appreciate Brinda Sundari or somebody. Please let us know if you can still hear okay. So anyway, Nimai was playing with those puppies, and because he kept this particular puppy, the boys became angry. And they went to Sachimata, and they lodged a complaint. You know, your Nimai, he's playing with the dogs, with the puppies. And Sachimata became very, very disturbed. And she went to Nimai and said, what are you doing? This is not good. You're a Brahmin boy. You shouldn't be playing like this. And while Nimai was gone, she let that puppy loose. And when Nimai came back and he found the dog had gone, hey, Mata, where's that dog? And she said, I don't know. He just wandered away somewhere. And Nimai, then he said, I'm not going to eat unless you find that puppy. He's my very dear friend. It's not right. And Nimai had so much love for that puppy. That's village life. Krishna had a dog. Nimai Pandit had a dog. It doesn't mean devotees have to keep dogs. But it does mean that we shouldn't preach against any animals any more than we should preach against Americans or preach against... Even we're so broad-minded, we can even like Russian people. They're also sometimes okay. Krishna consciousness is open for everyone. But the problem in the temple, we can't train the dogs. We can't train the bulls or other personalities who are there. But in village life, we can do that. And therefore, both things are required. We need to have temples in our Krishna conscious movement, but we also need to have village life. If we don't have villages, then how are we going to give some service for the dogs, and for the horses, and for the goats, and for the bulls, for the buffalo? there has to also be that village life. And devotees should understand that village life means holistic living. And in the Chaitanya Mangal, there's a wonderful series of prayers. I won't go in that direction right now. Where the demigods started offering prayers to Nimai that you're being merciful to the dogs, to the puppy, why don't you be merciful to us? Those dogs are very, very exalted. So village life is holistic. This is a point we wanted to make today. And if we want to preach something which is purna, something which is complete, not apurna, we see if we want to make our society complete, we have to have two things. We have to have temples and preaching. That's important. That's part of it. We can never give those things up. But it's apurna. Even though the temple is there with Krishna, it's still not complete because so many people don't want to live there. And because the temples are not a place for the animals. So to make our society complete, to make it purna, we have to have village life. And village life is holistic. In village life you can have all different types of animals. As Srila Prabhupada was describing in Krishna book, that in Krishna consciousness, he says that everyone has a part to play. All the animals, including the cows, dogs, goats, etc. Everyone has a part to play. So this is Krishna consciousness. And when we preach about Krishna consciousness, we don't only preach to men, we also preach to women. We don't only preach to Americans, we also preach to Indians. We don't only preach to people, but we give some opportunity for all living entities. And this is a wonderful thing I see in the Nandi Sanctuary, and something I like very much from Dora Mukunda Prabhu, because my life has been apurna. It's not been complete, because I'm just sitting in front of the computer constantly writing and things, and therefore I come and I take advantage of things here. And I'm not coming here to do cow protection, I'm coming here to be protected by the bulls, as Raghunath Das Goswami says. Right? And they're coming to hear the Bhagavatam. So we're going to go ahead and stop there. And because we want something which is purna, which is complete, we're going to ask the devotees online and offline if you have any reflections about the importance of animals in Krishna consciousness. And I just want to thank all the devotees online also who are here. Let me just mention a few names. We have Madhupati Prabhu. Garrison's also here. Hare Krishna from the little known place known as Ypsilanti. And Radha Priya is here also from Hungary. Nice to see. Brajabanita has a comment. She says, wonderful topic, so important. Community without animals is sak. I'm not sure what you mean by sak. Anyway, and thanks to Brajendra Kumar Prabhu and Lalita Dasi. Lalita Dasi offers some comment. She says, thank you so much for your lectures. Many young people come up, and this is my favorite TV series, Meeting in Kurukshetra. I'm currently in Switzerland, and the lectures start here at 3:30 in the morning. So I usually don't watch it live, but I'm always super happy when I see a new lecture. It's the best TV show ever. I'm always eager to hear what will happen and how any number of characters, great personalities react and hear deep insights about it. It's a nurturing heart. When we speak about the bulls, I want to make another little comment. Jiva Goswami, Madhupati Prabhu has a comment here. Madhupati says, regarding insects, insects are also important.
Very important.
Very, very important. There's a science about insects. Don't you? In the city, we think insects are all just bad. But there's good insects and there's bad insects. And even the bad insects have some role. The mosquitoes here in Mayapur, they're devotees, and they make you dance because they go to bite your feet so you're moving. They also have some role to play here. But there's also certain insects which are friendly. They drive away other types of insects from plants. What we call the ladybug in America is a very good insect, and it eats different types of insects which we consider pests. So Madhupati Prabhu has commented, so regarding insects and other animals who eat the crops as pests, this has led to poisoning of the environment and the present lamentable state of the human habitat. If we leave them alone, we'll have enough to eat according to our karma. Prabhupada used to comment that his father, who was selling cloth, My Aunt Valley is watching. Hare Krishna. I don't know what you think about all this, Aunt Valley. Nice to see you here. Speaking about the animals today. Rajabani to Shiva and Kamalini. Kamalini's here also. Hare Krishna, Kamalini. I have to answer your message you sent me recently. Krishna Priya's here. So many different devotees. So we're talking today. My Aunt Valley, she grew up in a nice village, and we would go and visit our grandmother, and I would see my aunties like Aunt Valley. And it was holistic living, because everyone, they were keeping animals, and they had, most of our food stuff was coming from the garden, and it was nobody was thinking about organic things. It was just natural. That's the way you did it. Huh? So I'm looking to see if anybody else has any different. Madhupatibu says, how should we relate to scorpions, snakes, etc., who are envious animals? They also have some role to play in a holistic life. We don't let them in the village. We want to keep them outside. But they also keep, the snakes are very useful. They keep down the mice and different things. They have some utility. If they're poisonous and they come around us, tradition in the villages, they'll take them. They don't kill them traditionally. They'll have some snake charm, and the snake charmers it's holistic. What do? They chant some mantras, which are Krishna mantras, about how Krishna was dancing on the hoods of Kaliya, and those snakes become charmed, and they take those snakes away some other place. Ujjwala Rasiga Mataji's here. Hare Krishna, nice to see you. Mahendra Prabhu, Krishna Sharana. Okay, Ujjwala Rasiga Mataji makes a comment. She says, as much as we want to be close to nature, and preferably in the Dham, not all of us are fortunate to do that because of many reasons that we don't have control over. That for some solace and meaning we turn to the holy name and thank Srila Prabhupada so much for bringing in some purpose to wherever we live, what to do. We can do that. There's other things we can do. We can think about the animals. We can read about them in Krishna book. That's one thing everybody should do. We can offer prayers to the cows, like Raghunath Das Goswami is doing. Some devotees, they want to have some part in it, and they adopt a cow. That's a very popular thing with a lot of goshalas. That's okay. I'm going to send my money there and do something, and that's also needed, and it's appreciated, and you get benefit from that. You can also participate by only taking milk from protected cows.
We say you get adopted by the cow.
Dale Mukundi says it's not the proper understanding to say I adopted a cow. Rather, the cow adopts you. I like that.
That's what Raghunath Goswami is.
Yes, this is Raghunath Das Goswami's purport. Huh? But better than all of that, even if you're really nervous about the cows, I know whenever we travel, you get a lot of high blood pressure. Going to the airports, it disturbs your mind. So we would go, wherever we go, we try to connect with the cows. And we purchased a nice brush when we were in Uzbekistan. And we would go and we try to brush the cows. And when we were in New Mayapur in France, we were going to see the cows, and the devotee there, I can't remember his name, was in charge of the cows. He told us a very wonderful story that he was trying to encourage everybody, look, this should be a holistic community, which means everybody should have something to do with the cows more than just drinking the milk, or more than just, giving some money to pay for them. But you should come and pet the cows. And there was one cow there who was very elderly, and that cow, she had never given birth to a calf in her life. And now she's like in her old age. And the devotees came and they started brushing her. And she really liked it. And a miracle happened. Something which is medically impossible. She started giving milk. She's an elderly cow. She's never had a calf. But because the devotees were coming and loving her and brushing her, she started giving that milk. And that was such special milk. That was the milk they were using to offer to the deities. Mm-hmm. So let's see if there's any other comments online here. Brinda Sundari, Oma. Okay. You hear well, Somya's there. Mohan Krishna. Brinda Sundari says, yes, nice comment. She says, every species has a purpose or role. And good management, because her husband's a temple president, so she's always thinking of management. Good management means understanding how to engage each one and keeping the balance inherent in the design. I hope that doesn't mean that you're trying to infer that some of the devotees in the temple are like animals or species. I don't think so. Hare Krishna. Sometimes we are. She says sometimes actually the animals are less trouble than the devotees. It's my experience. Brenda Sundar goes on, in Kali Yuga, so much is out of balance, and knowledge about this seems to be lacking. Brajabanita comments, I can't understand how you can live without at least some kind of animal. She's fond of saying it because she likes cats, and she's got so many different cats in her house. So I'm going to stop there. Anybody here have any reflections? I'm going to ask, so if you could please come up here, because otherwise they won't be able to hear you. And I'm going to have to repeat everything you say.
Have a chair.
You can sit over here, and devotees can see your smiling face, Prabhuji. Come sit down.
Have some hot drink and light snack.
Comments, reflections.
When you were so wonderfully describing Braj Leela, I was reminded recently, my Guru Maharaj was also sharing that this is the mood of Sankirtan Leela, that everyone has a place, everyone is welcomed. And he cites the example of Shivananda Sen, and a dog joined his party, and Shivananda Sen said, okay, you're in. So,
And even says that the devotees, they offered obeisances to that dog. But now a very important question came up about this previously in one of our discussions. Was that dog a male dog or a female dog? Surely it couldn't have been a female dog, otherwise they wouldn't have offered obeisances, right? And yes, I'm being sarcastic.
and also, Prabhu, when you described Indradev, and because we are in this beautiful sanctuary, thanks to you for bringing us here, and for so nicely explaining the holistic concept of village life of Braj Leela for us. I was reminded that when Krishna forgave Indra, Krishna called him at a private place, my Guru Maharaj explains, and Indra took Surabhi cow, probably based on advice of Brahma. So, yes, mother cows protect us, and that is why we chant Namo Brahmana Devaya, Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha, Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya, Govindaya Namo Namaha. My Lord, you are the protector of the cows and the Brahmanas, and you are the well-wisher of the entire human society and the world. Thank you very much, Prabhu. This is amazing. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Anybody else have any reflection, anything? Okay. What's that? Would you please come over here? I'm sorry. I'm going to go away for just a couple of minutes.
This reminded me of the Srila Prabhupada's morning walk, when Srila Prabhupada was walking with the Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and then Tamal Krishna Maharaj was introducing different like trees. This is this tree, this is that tree, and then I just heard that then Prabhupada asked, okay, what is the use of this cactus tree? There was some wild tree there, wild tree or wild plant, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj said that it has no utility. This is a wild plant. It has no utility. It is useless. And then Srila Prabhupada put his cane and said, this plant is not useless, you are useless. Because you don't know its utility, therefore you are useless. Why would Krishna make someone useless, or some plant or some tree useless? So when Prabhu was telling regarding the animals, I was reminded of this story that everything, every animal, every species has its utility. But because we don't know, I mean, Krishna knows, because Krishna made everything. So that's just.
If devotees have more reflections, it would be nice, and I think we should wait with this.
Okay, we can have.
Where is this?
Well, I've heard it multiple times, this story. I mean, like from the senior devotees. But where it is from, I don't know. But I have heard it multiple times.
You didn't know where it happened.
This was morning walk. This is for sure. It is morning walk. But where a morning walk, that I don't know.
I see. Thank you.
We're waiting Madhavan and Prabhu to get
Do
back.
you have any reflections?
Yeah, I have.
Please say. I haven't said that already.
Okay. Maybe I can say that.
Please say it now. I know if you want him to be here, but he was saying.
Okay, we were asked to reflect, and I have a reflection. I appreciate so much how everyone has a role to play in Vrindavan. and how it actually works here in this world. Even this principle of biodiversity, it means that there are different plants and they create particular atmosphere in the soil, which is really beneficial. This is really interesting how it originates from Vrindavan. It's the principle of biodiversity, that everybody has a role to play.
Okay.
The last time I made a comment. Can you please repeat the thing about biodiversity?
Yeah, I just said that that everybody in Vrindavan, everyone has a role to play, and how I was thinking about the principle of biodiversity, that different species, they create beneficial atmosphere for the soil. For example, different plants in the field, if it's only one type, the field is going to be practically useless, but if it's different plants, as the soil getting particular quality, which is nourished other plants and things. So interesting.
Yeah, it's like also symbiosis. It's similar. Symbiosis, where they can only live together.
Yeah, that's also an interesting thing.
There's a saying that a weed is just a plant that we don't know its use.
That's actually right.
Weeds are also useful plants. I mean, they're
Yesterday I
necessary.
received an email about that. I just yesterday received an email that if we don't know what's its function, so we call it weed, but it has its own function. So actually, thank you everybody.
This is Dwal Mukunda Prabhu. Devotees don't know. He's in charge of the Nandi Sanctuary here. Our dear friend.
So, thank you for coming, all the devotees and all the devotees online. Thank you, Madhavan and Prabhu. I really got confirmation when I say sometimes that it's not us who are protecting cows, but we get protection. So thank you for bringing this point and got it bona fide Shastrik Praman. Now it will help me speaking it strongly more. So yeah, thank you very much. It is actually like that because it's not us who can protect cows. It's just something I can compare with, like we can think that we are taking care of deities. We are dressing them, offering them. So we understand there that it's actually when we are troubled, we go, oh, my Lord, please help us. So similarly, we can actually approach to the cows and bulls also. We can externally provide them everything what is required, because that's the opportunity Krishna has given us in this world, and that's our duty. That's the dharmic, as Shiva Maharaj quotes many times, that's dharma, that's dharmic activity to take care of the cows. Similarly, he compares, even Maharaj compares that similarly, like chanting is dharmic, taking care of cows is dharmic, cows and bulls. So yes, it's us who get protected by being engaged in the service. So I encourage everybody to get engaged on various levels. I often say that it's not necessarily that you have to come and pick up the dung, or that's best if you can do, but if not, then somehow or other get connected. Means even if you're traveling, have some bananas, have some bread, feed a cow, feed a dog, feed a horse, stray horse. So somehow or other we should be connected.
I need to scoot over
Thank you
here
very much.
so we can sit together. I just want to make a comment on this. Probably the most famous preacher in our movement today, the biggest proponent of book distribution, is Vaisheshika Prabhu. And every year, for the last few years, before the pandemic, we've been blessed to have his association in Jagannath Puri. And every year I put together kind of a menu of ideas where to go and what to do. And one year I asked him, I said, would you like to go to the village? And he said, yes, we'll go to the village. And he's such a brilliant Sankirtan devotee, so he got together books and book bags for the devotees who were going to go to the village, and he got together some little candies for the children, prasadam candies, and stickers. And then he also brought gur for the cows. That was part of his Sankirtan program. You're going to go to the village, you also got to feed the cows. That was good.
He saw the whole thing holistically.
Yes. And if we're not holistic in our life with the devotees, our society is just not going to be, it's not going to function properly. Bindu Sundari comments that Anupayani, she's talking about Anupayani Radha, studied landscape architecture, so she knows about biodiversity. That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
My good friend Dr. Sri Kumar, he speaks a lot about this biodiversity. It's something like, you know, unity in diversity.
Yes.
That can be seen very closely in nature. It is said that if you just take a handful soil in your hand, soil,